How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Delighted to have you with me. We got to talk about Donald Trump has baited the Democrats again. They have taken the bait yet again. He does this, and you would think at some point that the Democrats would figure out what is going on, but they cannot help themselves. There is a level of mental illness in this country that knows no bounds. I mentioned the other day, I don't know how the guy got me. I assume I gave the guy my cell phone number. I don't know, but I occasionally get just overwrought, upset text messages from a guy who is just absolutely convinced that Donald Trump is a dictator, and shame on me for not being more aggressive and calling him out, and on and on and on and on. And I can't I miss the old Eric, and why won't you take a stand? And he's tearing down the East Wing of the White House because he plans to stay. He'll outlast the construction. On and on it goes. And Donald Trump and Steve Bannon are both now suggesting that Trump may want to run again in 2028. Steve Bannon claims they found a way. You know, the way that the theory is, well, Trump will run as J.D. Vance's vice president. Vance will become president and step aside. Right. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when the article was proposed by the Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term within which the article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. Now, what does this actually mean? You can't be president more than twice. If you've taken over the presidency and there's more than half of a term to go, you can only run for the office one more time. The maximum that a person can be president of the United States is 8 years. Now, there are some people who like to speculate that, wait a second, what about the vice president? Why can't you become the vice president and then you can get elected president of the United States? The person can be pushed out. Well, because the qualifications for vice president of the United States are that the vice president must meet the same qualifications as the president of the United States. And since a president can't hold office for more than 8 years, a vice president who becomes president no longer meets the qualifications, because you can't be president, you can't be vice president without meeting the qualifications for president, with the exception of the 8 years. So you become vice president, you're allowed to then become president and serve up to 8 years. But if you become vice president and you've already served for 8 years as president, you're disqualified from being vice president because you must meet the qualifications of being the president of the United States. This isn't hard stuff. But you have this absolute meltdown from all sorts of people about Donald Trump suggesting he's going to run for a third term. He's going to be a dictator. You know, first of all, let's just say this. If Donald Trump decides to run for a third term, he's got to get elected. So then what you have to do is you have to take it to the next step, is that he will rig the election somehow. Donald Trump will be able to rig the election. Now, let's talk about that for a second. This is the same reason I maintain that the 2020 election wasn't stolen, but I realize there are those of you who disagree. However, here's the problem. The swing states change every few years, generally about a decade. You go to different swing states. 10 years ago, Georgia, the state of Georgia, was not a swing state. It is now. 10 years ago, Florida was a swing state. It's not now. 10 years ago, Iowa was a swing state, as was Ohio. Neither of those are really swing states now. The swing states are now Georgia and Arizona, Nevada, and Pennsylvania remains a swing state. Wisconsin, Michigan, those are swing states. They change. So you've got to be able to determine which states are the swing states and where in those states you will deploy resources to steal the vote that is going to survive some sort of audit path. Take Pennsylvania, for example. I forget how many counties are in Pennsylvania, but every county in Pennsylvania determines its method of voting. In some states like Georgia, the state has a uniform statewide voting practice. In Pennsylvania, every single county gets to determine the method it wishes to use to vote. So if you're going to steal the election, then you've got to learn each of those methods if Pennsylvania is still a swing state. You can't just do the popular vote because, we've got the Electoral College. These sorts of things matter. So then apparently the next theory is that they're going to march the National Guard in and they're just going to steal the election, or they're going to cancel the election, and that's not going to happen. Do you think California is going to allow that? Do you think the Supreme Court's going to allow that? It's just madness reigning within the minds of people who hate Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is using this, and they have taken the bait yet again. It is not a coincidence the President of the United States brought up a third term in 2028 after the inflation numbers came in higher than expected. The inflation numbers, I might add, from Donald Trump's own staff, because the government shut down, and these are the yes men of the administration releasing the data that actually is not good. Inflation is at 3%, slightly less than they were expecting, but still much higher than it should be. And what does Donald Trump do? Suggests he's going to get a third term. What do the Democrats decide to talk about? Not inflation. Not the cost of living. They decide to go all in on 2028 because Steve Bannon brought it up and Donald Trump got asked about it, and Donald Trump refuses to walk it back. This is Axios. President Trump refused to rule out an unconstitutional bid for a third presidential term on Monday, but floated a potential ticket of Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio. Trump and his allies have repeatedly teased a third term for the already twice-elected president. However, the 22nd Amendment says no person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice. Steve Bannon, a MAGA podcaster and former Trump advisor, turned heads in a recent interview with The Economist by suggesting there was a plan for Trump to stay in office. I haven't really thought about it, he told reporters on Air Force One. Trump claims he has the best poll numbers he's ever had. He said if Rubio and Vance formed a group, they'd be unstoppable, but the president added, I'd love to do it. I have the best numbers ever. When pressed if he would rule out a third term, he say, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me. So here's where this will head. The Vance-Rubio ticket is the shadow government, and Donald Trump will pull the strings behind the scenes, and he won't go anywhere. You know what? I have bad news for all of you. Donald Trump cannot avoid the ultimate term limit, which is death. He can't avoid it. No one can. None of us can avoid death. Even that creepy dude, he keeps trying to make himself younger and is just getting blood injected. Oh, that guy's just weird. Weird, creepy. There's something wrong with him. Just grow old gracefully, stop having plastic surgery, learn to accept it. Donald Trump is term limited by life itself, and he doesn't have much longer to go at his age, but also he's term limited by the Constitution. And what the Democrats have done, just again, think about this. On Friday, the inflation numbers came back higher than they should be. It puts the Federal Reserve in a conundrum. Inflation is still higher than they want it to be, and yet they want to cut interest rates again. The economy is showing all sorts of signs of underneath the hood there are problems. And instead of talking about that, instead of talking about grocery prices, instead of talking about beef prices, instead of talking about any of that sort of stuff, the Democrats, they decided to go off on Trump's third term. And I'm getting emotional text messages from people who I don't even know, who have my cell phone that, see, he's going to stay. I told you he was going to stay. What are you going to do? Stand up and say something. He's not going to stay. The Constitution's stronger than any one man, including Donald Trump. I actually think that the people who are convinced Donald Trump is going to have a third term, they actually take a smaller view of the American Republic than I do. I think they're upset Donald Trump got elected the first time. I think they're really upset that more people voted for Donald Trump than voted for Kamala Harris, that it's a damning indictment on the American people. They would vote for a man like that. I don't really care. But these people care greatly, and they're deeply upset about it. And Trump is playing the game. It's like the White House tearing down the East Wing. You know, the Democrats, I'm convinced the Democrats went overboard with that because they didn't want to talk about the government shutdown. The Democrats poured all of their emotional energy into the tearing down of the East Wing of the White House. I saw some Democratic strategists say it was like 9/11 all over again. Apparently, President Trump put 2,700 Americans inside the East Wing and tore it down on top of them. It's just like 9/11. These people are emotionally unhinged. But by talking about it, they didn't have to talk about the Nazi in Maine the Democrats are supporting. They didn't have to talk about Jay Jones in Virginia, who, by the way, there is a criminal investigation happening in Virginia now. A special prosecutor has been retained to investigate Jay Jones because, you know, the bigger scandal was always not the text message, but he used his community service hours working on his own campaign and had people lie about it. He's being investigated. But the Democrats didn't have to talk about that. They didn't have to talk about the government shutdown. They haven't had to talk about any of that. They could scream about the East Wing of the White House. The president wanted to get it done while Congress is distracted, so he was happy for them to be distracted by it. But I'm telling you, it was all done by design. Get the Democrats distracted. And the Democrats, of course, took the bait because they didn't want to talk about the shutdown. But now with this, who cares what the 22nd Amendment says? They're convinced he's going to be a third term, and they're not talking about inflation. Every single thing, and this is the wild thing about the Democrats generally. The government is shut down. The Republicans say, and truthfully, the Democrats want to give health care to illegal aliens. What do the Democrats do? They make it about health care. They don't make it about the tariffs. The Democrats could have made the shutdown about standing up to the president and the tariffs. They would have plenty of arguments between the Chinese and the Canadians and everyone else. But the Democrats don't want to make the shutdown about tariffs. They don't want to make the shutdown about the economy. They don't want to make the shutdown about anything relevant to people's lives right now. They want to make it about a health care plan they themselves voted to get rid of. And then the inflation numbers come in on Friday, and the Democrats decide to make it about Trump in a third term. These people are incompetent. The Democratic Party is incompetent. The economic data is giving them issues. Trump is giving them issues. And what are they doing instead? They are taking the bait every single time to distraction, to not talk about other things. Donald Trump lives rent-free in their head, and he is controlling the Democratic Party. If he does something, the entirety of the Democratic Party moves in reaction to it. They can't think for themselves. They got to wait for Trump to posit a thought, and then be against it if he's for something or for something if he's against it. That's the way the Democrats have structured their operation right now. And that's not the way you actually win elections. That's not the way you win anything. It's just the way you fundraise, which is their problem. Hello. How are you? It's Eric Erickson, 877-973-7425. It's a wonderful day today. It's a wonderful day. It is stormy outside. It's pouring down rain where I am. My office is an ice box. They haven't rolled over the heat yet. I'm going to have to turn on my floor heater in here. But it's a wonderful day. It is an absolutely glorious day. It's the best day of the year so far. Brian Kelly is out of a job at LSU. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Praise Jesus. Finally, they have sought to dispatch Brian Kelly from Cajun country back to whence he came, where he no longer has to do the bad pretend Cajun accent. It's a great day, America. Yes, I told Brooke Rollins on Friday I knew A&M was going to beat LSU. They've been doing that the last few years since Brian Kelly got there. That first half of the game, I knew it was false hope. LSU got ahead, went into halftime, and I thought, I'm not going to watch it because I know where this is going. It's like Georgia doesn't show up for a football game until after until the second half of the game. LSU under Brian Kelly goes to sleep after the first half. I don't know, but he's out of a job. I realize we're not sports talk here today, but my gosh. And he's going to make over $26,000 per day from LSU for the next 6 years doing nothing. So he won't be too upset about it. Good grief. What an abomination. Glad that's over. It's a great day in America. Brian Kelly's out of a job. All right. I got to move on. We actually do have real other news to cover. But first, I need to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them. You can save $200. Get it for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. You can go down to Death Valley and plug them in and get rid of the stench of the old coach. They wipe out odors. They kill every odor because they generate ozone, and ozone touches the ionized particulate in the air you and I know as an odor, and it neutralizes them, so no odor can stand up to it. And because ozone's a gas, just like the odor, it can go where the odors live and originate and get them there and wipe them out, and it just works. And you get 3 of them, and you save $200. You get them for less than $200. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. Eden like the Garden of Eden, pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, no space, ERIC3 at EdenPureDeals.com. You can thank me later. They're small, they're portable. You can plug them into the wall or with USB cord. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code is ERIC3. When we come back, there's been a new internal autopsy of the Democratic Party and why they keep losing. And you all know the answer, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway. Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you on the program today. At the top of the hour, former Senator Kelly Loeffler, now the head of the Small Business Administration, is going to join us. They've had a major crackdown on employers abusing the H-1B visa program. And also, if you're a small business and you are expecting money from the government, you're not going to get it thanks to the Democrats' shutdown of the government. It is kind of weird, is it not? It is October 27th, and the government is still shut down. And on a day-to-day basis, though, how many of you really feel it? I suspect very few. I mean, now, if you're a government employee, again, you're not getting a paycheck. I get that. But FAA staffing is becoming a problem in Los Angeles and a few other airports. They're slowing down flights. I've got a trip November 7th, that Friday. I've got to go out to Las Vegas, actually, to give a speech. And I'm hoping that the airport will be government will be open by then, because otherwise TSA in Atlanta can have some issues, and I would really like to not have to deal with those issues. But other than that, I mean, the mail is getting delivered. Social Security checks are going out. In fact, Social Security cost of living is going to go up next year. They made that decision while the government is closed. The military got paid due to a donation from Thomas Mellon, a reclusive billionaire who's a friend of Donald Trump's. He made a $130 million donation. I mean, life is going on, people. Life is going on. And you're now got John Fetterman and Federal Employees Union saying, hey, it's time to open up the government. I don't know whether the government's going to open or not. We'll see when the Democrats decide to do it. It's all on the Democrats. The Republicans are not going to ditch the filibuster. We'll see how they proceed. Dave Weigel at Semaphore has a piece on the Democrats, and there are a couple of takeaways here. Let me read you part of this. Democrats have badly weakened their party with left-leaning ideas and rhetoric, growing only with self-described white liberals, while losing ground with other voters, according to a new center-left group's report shared first with Semaphore. The group, called Welcome, consulted hundreds of thousands of voters over 6 months for its broad findings, including that 70% of voters think the Democratic Party is out of touch. Most voters, the group found, believe the party over-prioritizes issues like protecting the rights of LGBTQ plus Americans and fighting climate change, while not caring about securing the border or lowering the rate of crime. Welcome began as a PAC in 2022, then founded a nonprofit with the same name for political research. Elected Democrats will receive copies of the report after its Monday publication, followed by events to promote it in D.C. and New York. The report urges party members to abandon some of the progressive language about race, abortion, and LGBTQ issues that Democrats began using after the 2012 election, and recommends the nomination of more candidates willing to vote with Republicans on conservative immigration and crime bills. The Democratic Party better listen for the good of our nation, former Illinois Representative Sherry Bustos, who ran the party's House Campaign Committee when it lost seats in 2020, wrote in her endorsement of the report. Inspired by The Politics of Evasion, an influential 1989 paper that inspired the party's more centrist shift under Bill Clinton, the 70-page Deciding to Win document argues that Democrats must be willing to break with unpopular party orthodoxies. Its prescription for getting the party out of its current wilderness isn't simple: avoidance of both a pivot to corporate centrism and the pursuit of progressive ideological purity. Greg Schultz, who managed Biden's 2020 primary campaign but was replaced for the general election, worked with Welcome to shape the report. For the last 20 years, Democrats have just misunderstood how you actually win elections, he told Semaphore. I thought Biden had proven in the 2020 primary that the base of the Democratic Party is a 58-year-old woman without a college degree. But when you hear people in D.C. say the base, they mean white intellectuals that live in a few coastal cities. The report challenges Democrats' predilections for the interests of highly educated and affluent voters, arguing that their influence may be responsible for the party's closer association with left-wing politics. You think? Okay, this goes on, but I don't have to with this report, because you know and I know this is true, and the problem is that too many Democrats will reject it. It's not really a problem for our side, but for the Democratic Party, it's a problem. Look, who are the loudest and most prominent voices in the Democratic Party? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, about to have Zoran Mamdani. You've got Rashida Tlaib in there, and the media keeps putting those people on TV because so many of the people on the TV in the newsrooms of America are so far left, they elevate the left-wing voices of the Democratic Party. After the election in 2024, one of the most prominent Democratic strategists told me the problem for the Democratic Party is it is held hostage by neurotic white women and gay men. And he's not wrong. And that's why the party is going to struggle to connect with voters, because the wealthy, progressive, neurotic white women and gay men do not particularly connect with the middle class. That's just reality. You may not like it, but look at the fawning affection for Pete Buttigieg out there. Pete Buttigieg is literally a thing only white progressive people like. Moderate people don't care for him. Conservatives certainly don't. Black people don't. Hispanic people don't. Pete Buttigieg polls at 0 with black voters. At 0. I mean, what is the whitest thing I can think of other than Pete Buttigieg? Oh, what would the whitest possible thing be? I know, a 50-something balding white retiree with a red Corvette. That is probably one of the whitest things ever. A balding old guy retiree with his older midlife crisis buying a cherry red Corvette. That is probably the whitest thing I can think of. Is there anything whiter than that? I don't know. There might be something whiter than the old bald dude in the midlife crisis buying the cherry red Corvette. You know what? That guy and his car poll better in the black community than Pete Buttigieg. I mean, think of the whitest thing you can think of, and it polls better than Pete Buttigieg in the black community. Charlie just says the whitest thing I know is the guy on the microphone right now. Dude, seriously, I can't wear white socks. I'm so white. If I pull up my pants, like I can't find them to take them off. That's how white I am. And I poll better in the black community than Pete Buttigieg. I've seen my ratings. That's how bad Buttigieg is. And yet, among the progressives of America, they love Pete Buttigieg. Remember, when Kamala Harris got picked, it was white people in the press who were like, she's going to pick Pete Buttigieg. I mean, my goodness gracious. They got what their batteries had failed to deliver them with that thinking process. And yet she did not, because nobody likes Pete Buttigieg. And those people are the ones who have to take this data and try to process it for the Democratic Party. And they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be capable of doing it. Because they say, unironically, LGBTQ+. Think about that. It used to be the gay community, and then it was the LGB community, and then it was the LGBT community, and then it was the LGBTQ community. Now it's the LGBTQ+ community. They just keep adding. Somebody finally said, let's just put the plus and be done with it. But you got to say it. If you're progressive, you got to say it. You can't just say the gay community. You can't just say the LGBT community. I personally think they need to rebrand for popularity's sake and be the BLTNG community, because who doesn't love a BLT? But they got to add all the letters in there as well. And they're not going to like that this think tank suggests you got to stop talking about those issues. The climate change freaks, they're going to be upset too, because these people are like, well, we got to talk about crime and immigration, and we got to side with the Republicans. You cannot side with the Republicans. John Ossoff, the senator from Georgia, who's probably the most endangered Democratic senator, was complaining about the Democratic shutdown, that he can't vote to reopen the government now because he will lose progressive donors, and he needs progressive donors. And by keeping the government shut, he can fundraise and make a lot of money. But if he opens the government, the progressive base will blame him, and it puts him in jeopardy. He's captured by a progressive base that is demanding the government be shut down, and demands that he vote against Israel, and demands that he votes against common sense immigration reform, and demands that he votes against crime policies that would actually make Americans safe. This is where we are. The Democrats are held hostage to progressives. The report is exactly what you and I know it to be, truth, and yet the Democrats aren't going to be capable of processing the truth, because in so doing, their donors will stop giving them money. Because the progressive white people of the world, have you seen Alex Soros? That dude's going to close his checkbook if you abandon his progressive issues. Now, Mark Benioff, all the other major Democrats, Mark Cuban, all of them, they're going to stop funding the Democratic Party. And the funny thing is the Democrats to this day will look you dead in the eye and tell you the Republicans are the party of the rich. They still believe it. Some of you Democrats listening right now, you really believe the Republicans are the party of the rich. And yet you're the ones held captive to your billionaire donors. The Republicans have connected to the working class and the middle class, and the Democrats have connected to upper-income white neurotic women and gay men. And the neurotic white women's husbands. And their boyfriends, too. The husbands and the wives. And they're detached from everyone else now. So here now, this is the second or third Democratic group. You've got Harry Reid's group, Spotlight or whatever. You've got now Welcome. You've got these multiple groups that have come forward, or Searchlight. You've got these multiple groups that have come forward and said, hey, we have a real problem within the Democratic Party. We have moved so far left. We're spending our time talking about climate change and LGBTQIATTPAIPXYZ issues. And we've gotten bad on crime and we've gotten bad on immigration. We have to do something. And the progressives in charge, the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes of the world, they're like, just shut up. We don't want to hear it. And Chuck Schumer can't lead. Chuck Schumer can't lead because Chuck Schumer's going to get challenged by one of these people. You know, he still hasn't endorsed Mamdani. Hakeem Jeffries is now out endorsing Mamdani and Chuck Schumer's. And have you noticed, by the way, you've now got the leadership of the Democratic Party is distinctly New York City. Distinctly New York City. Less and less in touch with everybody else in the nation. Go watch the old Pace Picante ads. New York City. You're going to be completely out of touch with America. You're not only going to be too progressive, you're going to be too New York. Now, there's nothing wrong with those of you in New York. I'm on the radio in Watertown, New York. I love you people. I'm on in Buffalo, New York. I love you people. But we're talking about New York City here, and New York City and its politicians and the progressive elite of the Brooklynite class are out of touch with even most of the people of New York. They're certainly out of touch with the people of Arizona and Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, and those are the real swing states now. You went from having a San Francisco liberal and Nancy Pelosi to two New York City liberals. Harry Reid was from Utah. He was a Mormon, and he understood you couldn't alienate the blue collar, the working class, the middle class. You couldn't do it. But now that the Democrats are actually ensconced within the elite, living among the elite in elite neighborhoods of New York and San Francisco, they've kind of lost touch with the rest of the nation. And here come Democratic political operatives saying, hey, guys, 70% of voters think the Democratic Party is out of touch. And the leadership of the Democratic Party says now, well, that's their fault. That's not our fault. And what does Donald Trump do? Keeps finding the 80-20 issues and putting the Democrats on the 20% side. You know, I have expressed my concerns about the blowing up the boats in the Caribbean. But I still think the policy shift is good. Turns out most Americans do too. It's the white woke liberals who have the biggest problem. The Democrats, yet again, on the side of the drug runners, the drug lords, the drug cartels, the criminals, the illegal aliens. And Donald Trump's on the side of the people. The Democrats are for the theys and the thems. Donald Trump continues to be for you. The ad campaign continues to sell itself. The Democrats need an intervention, and they're not going to get it unless they keep losing elections. Howdy, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here at the top of the hour, 5 after the hour. Kelly Loeffler, the SBA administrator, former senator from Georgia, is going to join me to talk about the Small Business Administration and the impact of the government shutdown, as well as some of the fraud investigations that they have been engaged in. She's fantastic. Looking forward to it. I got a confession. I have not decorated for Halloween. And normally I would, but my kids are old enough now. I may put out a bucket of candy in the front of the house and just let people get it. I've done full-size candy bars in the past, and I'm not doing that this year. I don't even want to stand outside and hand out the candy on Friday. I don't know. My kids have stopped, and I'm always a little bit perturbed now how many people go out of their way to decorate for Halloween and not for Christmas, and I go all out for Christmas, and it's just really weird to me, and I may actually stand outside and put up a statue of Martin Luther. It is going to be Reformation Day. It was Reformation Day before it was Halloween. Should nail some theses to the front door of my house and call it an evening, but I'll put out a bucket of candy, I guess, and the candy's gotten expensive. You know, there's a tariff on chocolate, so Halloween candy is more expensive this year. Because we don't produce a lot of chocolate in this country, a lot of cacao beans, they have to be imported from elsewhere. So the tariffs got the candy budget off. Although I did notice in the last 2 years, the kids these days, they want more of the sour garbage. They don't want chocolate. They've got no taste. They want the sour candy. And I'm just like, no, no, that's gross. Sour Patch Kids, gross. No, eat some chocolate, people. It's better for your heart anyway. Milk chocolate, of course, not dark chocolate. I'm not weird. Now, we got to talk about Hillsdale College. EricForHillsdale.com is the website. ERICK. EricForHillsdale.com. You go there and you can take one of Hillsdale's great classes for free. In fact, you can take the class on capitalism, which is like 7 30-minute episodes. I say episodes because they're classes, but each course is broken down into 30-minute episodes, and depending on the class, depends on the number of them. So I know the capitalism one has 7. There's actually one on Aristotle that I think has 10 30-minute episodes, and they're done by the great faculty at Hillsdale College. They're educational. They're informative. You're not going to get bored with it, and you're actually going to learn something valuable. It's education. It's not indoctrination, and there's no cost. It is zero cost to you. What you do is you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Take one of the classes. I recommend the C.S. Lewis class as well. And then once you have done that, start taking the class, watch the videos, enjoy it. ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up today.